It's great to have in studio with us Wes Golden, Superintendent of Schools. Wes, before we really get into the program, I had Alicia Christensen in. She, of course, just named Superintendent of Schools out there at Northeast.
Yeah.
I think Central DeWitt's got a new superintendent.
Yep.
And then, of course, you got down at
Comanche. And so is Cal Wheat.
Oh, I didn't realize
So,
Cal
yeah,
Wheat.
the entire, next year, the entire county will have superintendents who are in their first 2 years.
You know, the one thing I wanted to bring up to you is, and Mark Bloom was another example, administrator in the school system goes to AEA, but now he's the principal out at Central DeWitt. Talk about that transition going from school system to AEA back to the school system.
Well, I think for a lot of those folks, Mark Bloom and Alicia Christensen would be great examples. I think it gives them a different perspective because they get to go into so many other school districts and kind of see, you know, how other practices are being implemented and initiated. So, you know, it allows them to come back with a broader picture of what's being done out there, and you get to pick from a lot of things and say, okay, well, I saw that happen over here and it didn't work, but I saw that happen over here and it worked, and here's why. It gives them, I think, a much broader perspective.
And I know that Alicia was a principal at one time before she went into AEA. Now, you never served as a principal, did you? You were always into the classroom and then got into administration, kind of Gary DeLacy's right-hand man?
Yeah, so I'm a weird one, and there's a few of us out there. I would say that I cut my leadership teeth in a much different place, spending 28 years in the military and you know, having 2 company commands, a battalion command, a brigade command. It allowed me to, you know, learn the ropes that way. I think it's served me very well. I'm in this position in large part due to 2 things, and one is I've had a lot of great educational mentors, teachers that I've worked with, but also the leadership experience in the military has allowed me to make those mistakes in another place and learn from those now. And while I've never been a principal, I've experienced almost everything, if not more than they have. Which they do a great job, and it's hard. It's hard work.
Speaking of principals, 2 outstanding hires. I mean, 2 graduates at Clinton High School. They were friends in high school.
I didn't even know that until the interview.
Nice article in the paper today. But, I mean, going into it, you knew that Brian Kenny and Dan Boyd were looking at retirement.
Yep.
So talk about the hiring process. I mean, you almost had like about a year, to look at it.
Well, absolutely. So one of the things that was really important to me was to go to each faculty and ask them, hey, what is it that you all are looking for in your next principal? And of course, they always want to swing the other way in that, you know, and Brian and Dan do a wonderful job and get it because both of them were high school teachers and both middle school principals. Now, Brian also was a high school principal before he came back to Clinton. So, of course, the staffs really wanted somebody who's had some experience in elementary. So that was really our first layer of screening criteria. Is we had about 30 candidates total for both positions. And we looked through the groups and said, okay, who's got the most elementary experience? And then it was really important that we have some folks who have some experience with that at-risk population, our special ed students. And that really allowed us to narrow the group down. We had 4 outstanding candidates. It was a hard decision, and I told all 4, you're all superstars. So how do we get the right person in the right place at the right time for the needs of that school? That was really what was important to me.
Jill, of course, class of 98, Sarah, class of 2000.
Yeah.
Were you teaching at the time?
I was.
Okay, did you know them?
No. Well, I know, and that's the funny thing. And when I introduced them to the board, I jokingly, you know, that self-deprecation is like, well, the reason why Jill has been so successful, she didn't take physics with me. I don't think she took physics at all, and same with Sarah. I think at that time I was teaching mostly earth science and general science at that time, and both of those students at that time weren't in those classes. So that's okay. But yeah, I was there. I was a teacher at that time.
You know, and it's so great. Later in the program, we're going to be talking about the Hall of Honor with, you know, former Clinton High grads. Yeah. But my goodness, to have 2 members of the staff now who were walking the halls of Clinton High.
Yeah, it's It's pretty cool. I mean, Christy Cooley at Bluff, same. She's a Clinton kid. Um, it's always, how shall I say? I love it when Clinton kids, because I'm that kid too. Who have valued their experiences while they were here, and thought that, a very similar position is I can give back to the community the way it gave to me. And it's so awesome to see our kids come back, and whether they're teaching or as a para, as a bus driver, as an administrator, they come back because they valued their experiences here.
You brought up the fact that, when you went to the faculties, they were talking about somebody with kind of an elementary background. One that comes to my mind, like J.R. Kutch. I mean, he was at the high school, now he's at the elementary, and seems to be a great fit for him.
Well, he started off his career as an elementary teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he before he came to Clinton High, he was an elementary teacher in North Scott. He was hired as an associate principal at Clinton High, and then took on, obviously, the principalship there, and then moved over to Jefferson. But he has a wide range of experiences, but he started off as an elementary teacher.
And visiting with West Golden. One thing that always intrigues me is, when you go into education, and you're probably going into education to be in the classroom, but when does that transition to where, gosh, I think maybe I'd like to try administration?
That's a great question. I think it's different for everyone. I know for myself, I wasn't, and I did not see myself as becoming an administrator. It wasn't part of my plan. And I'm quite certain there are teachers who this is their plan. They see themselves teaching for a little bit, getting that experience, and then moving on to something else in the educational community. And often that's the next step, is being a principal. I spent 22 years as a teacher before I became an administrator. And 8 years ago, when I took over the curriculum director position, I was essentially recruited and how shall I say, pushed, encouraged to do it, because what I've always appreciated about, no matter whether it was the military or whether it's in education, is people believing in me and encouraging me to do more, or to be in a position where I can help the most in my capacity. And when folks encourage me to become an administrator, I'm like, well, I've kind of done this before, in Iraq and Afghanistan and so on. I'm like, and I have a passion for curriculum and instruction. I'm like, why not give it a try? And I give a whole lot of credit to folks like Gary DeLacy who believed in me and gave me the chance.
Mentioning Gary DeLacy, one of the things he always talked to me about was the fact that the reason he went into administration is he felt he could have a greater or bigger impact on the students.
You certainly do. When you're a teacher, you have a direct impact on, as a high school teacher, 120 to 130 kids. In elementary, you're somewhere around 25 kids. In middle school, it's 120 or so. But when you go into administration, especially if you're a building principal, you impact that entire building. And when you are district level administrator, we have 3,100 students in our district. And, I remember sharing with a peer of mine in administration. He said, Wes, why did you choose to do this? And I said, well, a couple of things. One is this community has given so much to me. I feel like I owe them. I serve them because of what they've done for me. And if not me, then who? And I think those are important things for me to always convey to folks, is that this is important work we do.
A couple more things, and we'll take a break for the weather and then get into the Hall of Honor.
Sure.
How important is it, before we get into Jill and Sarah, for a principal to be seen in the hallways?
Oh, it's huge. It's so important for our kids to see those leaders. It's so important for our staffs to know that they're there, they got their back, they're safe. And when they can see their administrators, that's one thing I work really hard at trying to do, is once a month I go to each building before school starts and I greet kids as they come in, so that, while they may not know me directly, that, oh, that's Mr. Golden, and that's huge for me when I can walk through the hallway at Clinton High and the kids know who I am, or the middle school and kids know who I am. And it's important for our principals to be visible.
Okay, and again, a capsule of reason why Jill and Sarah are going to do great.
Well, I'll tell you, they both have exceptional experience. what has impressed me about Jill is her experience as an instructional coach. So that already sets her up to be an exceptional instructional leader. That's one of the key characteristics I look for in any educational leader is their instructional capacity. With Sarah, what impresses me about her is her experience with at-risk students, but also special education. But with both of them, what super is impressive about them is their ability to stay centered even when things don't feel centered. And that's so important. I talk to our team all the time about, when the walls are falling down around you, they're looking to you for calm. Because if you are calm, they'll be calm. But if your hair's on fire, their hair's on fire. And that's both of them have that they're just so centered.
When all around you are losing their heads and you can keep yours.
Absolutely.
Very important. Check of the weather now, brought to you by Electronics.
A more active and unsettled day expected for your Thursday with partly to mostly cloudy skies. A few showers and thunderstorms can't be ruled out from time to time. Stronger winds, too, as temperatures reach the low 70s this afternoon. Tonight, it will be mostly cloudy and warm. It can't rule out a stray strong storm overnight with lows in the 60s. With your Storm Track 8 weather impact forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
West says a light rain as he came in. Right now, 52 degrees southeast winds. Our update brought to you by Electronics.
Electronics Incorporated, the area's largest communications and alarm systems company, where their number one goal is customer service. Their quality work in a timely manner keeps you connected to the world. Electronics technicians realize that communication is the key to your company's productivity and profit. Their professional team has decades of experience that bring you the best possible service. Electronics Incorporated, 522 North 2nd Street, Clinton, or go to electronicsinc.com.
Back on FYI with Wes Golden, and coming up on April 25th, the inductee ceremony for the Hall of Honor. I know Gary DeLacy was a driving force to
Absolutely.
This Hall of Honor.
Yeah, it's such an incredible. I'm so appreciative that was installed by him and embraced by Clinton High School. We've had the Hall of Fame for years, which you are obviously an inductee of. It's so important for our students to see folks who have, gone to Clinton High School and that they can see themselves in them, that you can be a Clinton High School grad. You can go here and go on, whether it's locally in the state or the nation, and do wonderful things that impact their communities.
Well, I think the third member of my graduating class of 1972 is going in. We've got, last year was Diane Randall, and I'm giving their maiden names. And before that, Denise Dudley, both in class of 72, and now Cy Cave.
Yes, 50 years in the school district, every day showing up, doing hard work. And, anytime we can get folks to come back to Clinton and be a member of the community, but also serve that organization that they were educated in for over 50 years, it's incredible.
Cy, of course, would be the senior member of this inductee class. But you've got a couple out of the 80s, one late 90s, and then one from the class of 2000.
Yeah, so for decades, think about the impact that our system, our community, our teachers, our custodians, our bus drivers have had on kids. So, if you start with Keith Knutson, I know Keith. He was good friends with my sister. I remember him as a kid. He's a few years older than me, but he went to the Naval Academy, and then he ended up serving a fine, amazing career and retired as a captain in the Navy, commanding at various levels, traveling the world and impacting, organizations and places and spaces across the world. It's incredible. And, Keith, I think what I remember, he was super smart in high school. And he was the captain of the football team. And I remember when he had gone to the Naval Academy, communicating some ways through my sister, and that he was struggling with chemistry at the Naval Academy. I'm like, man, if Keith Knutson's struggling at the Naval Academy in chemistry, this must be a pretty rigorous place to go to school. So
that selection has to be kind of dear to your heart with that military background.
Oh, those folks are always special to me because they've sacrificed so much for all of us. So
that was, of course, 86 now, and then in 88, Dr. Rachel Karstens Keck.
She went to Clinton High for but 1 year, and it was her senior year. And I believe her father took a job in Clinton. I went back to when I think I'm the one who nominated her, because somebody said, "Hey, do you know a Clinton High School graduate's now the president of Grandview University?" And I'm like, "So what?" And I went up and looked, and there she was. And then I went back to my yearbooks and I found her. I'm like, we were in band together, or marching band. I'm like, man, but that's, back when, there's almost 400 kids in a class, and you don't always know or see everybody until one day. So, yeah, she's had, talk about an amazing professional career, from being the president of 2 colleges and universities to earning not only a PhD, but a Juris Doctorate. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is great. And in administration at Grandview, we got a lot of area kids go to Grandview.
We do. I've had a lot of former students of mine, not only as students in academics, go to Grandview, but athletes. They have quite a prestigious athletic program.
Johnny Sullivan did pretty well there.
Yes, he did. I think they've won how many football championships, how many wrestling championships. They just really go out there and they perform. And a lot of Clinton kids go out there. Absolutely.
Moving to the 90s now, in Romero, I just always knew him as Romy.
Yeah, Romy. No, if you take a look at, just the impact he's had on his community, working with families of, that are disadvantaged, or, of younger people who are experiencing homes with violence and so on. He's just there, and he's helping those kids and those families pick themselves up and give them the tools in their toolkit so they can be successful. That love comes from all different ways, shapes, and forms, and places that sometimes you don't experience, and Romy's that guy.
And so important, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
In the arts now, Gabby Torres.
Yeah.
I always have Gabby in on occasion. Love visiting with her. She's very passionate about the arts.
Very much so. And most people now know Gabby. I've known her because she, for years, lived across the street from me, and that's how I got to know her. And she's done some amazing things in our community, and has brought that art culture to Clinton, and such an impact on many of the events that are going on, especially up there in the Lions District. And just if you look at it and read her bio, she's got things everywhere, and that's pretty cool.
And visiting with her, the one thing that strikes me is her passion for the city of Clinton.
Yeah, and that comes out very clear when you speak with her about anything. Is just, this is about Clinton, and it's about bringing things to our community and providing experiences for our community, that so they don't have to travel to Chicago. They don't have to travel elsewhere to have those experiences. That artistic culture experience is pretty cool.
Yeah, that painted back in the North End, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And now we go to the 2000s. Scott Moorhead.
Yeah, so Scott I had Scott in class. So, okay. And Scott was, like a lot of actors and comedians. High school had, a unique time in school, but they took those skills that often were used in class, right? And he would probably be similar. He would share those sentiments as well, but have gone on. And what was really cool about Scott is when he was selected, he was so humbled by that, but also our thespian group reached out to him and said, "Hey, the day before, would you be willing to do kind of a little clinic with us?" And he immediately, like, boom, I'm there. And so, him knowing and seeing that he could give back, that's so cool.
Is he going to be able to see the new theater?
Oh, yeah, everybody is. So that's where we're going to hold the ceremony in the new theater. So, no, we're going to give them a tour of the new building. I kind of gave the folks that aren't living in Clinton any longer a heads up. It's going to look a little different than what you're used to. And but we'll give them a tour. After the tour, what's really cool is that they then each give a speech in the morning. They have an award assembly for academics for our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. So 3 of them will do something then. And then we have lunch. So we do a luncheon for them in their honor. And then in the afternoon, it's senior convocation. So 3 more will give speeches, a quick 8 to 10 minute overview. And what I've conveyed to our inductees is that speech, what's so cool about it is they can reminisce about their time at Clinton High. Who are the teachers, the coaches, the folks that made a huge impact, and what's that advice as our students move forward, that I want our kids to see them in them.
Yeah, it is such a great thing, the Hall of Honor, no doubt about that. And for these inductees who are not in the community, when they go by 8th Avenue South, they're going to be shocked, especially Scott, who performed in the Vernon Cook Theater.
Absolutely. It'll be fun to see their reaction. But, when we did the open house a couple of weeks ago, we had so many folks come in just so impressed with the theater and the new space for our students. It's, it's pretty cool.
Well, let's get an update on the construction. Obviously, things are coming down.
Yeah, so the newest part of the old building, right? The old 1969 building that you were impacted by, it's down, and so now you can kind of see that space which you couldn't see before. So now it's just a pile of rubble. They'll be clearing that out here probably for the next month or two. Probably towards the end of the summer, they'll begin to put the foundation for Phase 3 in. And what's Phase 3 is really the front of the new building where it's a new common space. There'll be where the old theater was. There'll be a 2-story kind of administrative wing where the first floor will be where the principal's offices are. The second floor will be where our school counselors are. And that commons area, which will be pretty cool, like a lot of open educational spaces. They'll have kind of a set of, I won't call bleachers, but steps where you could actually have, they're quite large, where kids, like stadium seats, where kids could sit and we could have a class there. But it also gives them steps up to the second floor. There'll be a balcony that overlooks the commons area, but also allows you to enter the balcony of the theater. There'll be a couple of art rooms there as you move towards your gym area, and there'll be a connection to your gym. So when it's done, it's going to be amazingly beautiful. I look forward to it. But when will that, everybody asks me, when is it going to be done? Because this is 5 years going, right? So we're keeping our fingers crossed. For those you can't see me, I've got them crossed next summer. So summer of 26.
Well, they can see you. You got a camera right over here.
Holy cow. So,
there you go.
Yeah, so next summer, the summer of 26, I'm going to say August of 26, but that's what we're hoping for, shooting for.
Well, I've got a niece who's a counselor at Clinton High School, Taylor Detterman, and she's looking forward to her new digs when they come about.
It'll be great.
I always, when I come to do football and basketball, I'd always park in the back parking lot. Obviously, things are going on back there. Now, are you going to be able to drive all the way around the school?
You will. Now that the S-wing is down and, the original building from 100 years ago is down, that back area, there'll be some parking back there. And, you'll be able to drive all the way around, even the southeast side of the new building. You'll be able to drive around it.
Yeah, I know, visiting with Teresa Schultz, they were talking about, and I'm sure you've probably brought it up too, that the reason the process is a little bit longer is because they wanted to keep everything at Clinton High, where Coan Field is and things like that, rather than going somewhere and building like what they did with the middle school. Yeah,
if we would have picked a new space and built from scratch, we would have been done by now. But there was such sentiment to keep your gym, rightfully so. So as we speak to our architect and our general contractor and ask them, hey, in a relative, scale of complexity, how more complex is this than anything you ever done? They don't even hesitate. This is the most complex thing we've ever had to do is tear down and build in place. And no, they're doing the best job that we can. They can, and I'll tell you. We are still within budget. And I want people to know that our school board has been very diligent about maintaining the budget and keeping it on track that way.
And a final point is the community really backed this effort when they went out to vote.
Very much so, and that is greatly appreciated, and that's why I think it's so important for us to be good stewards of this process.
All right, any closing comments before we let you go?
No, I appreciate it. Spring is here. The light of this year is at the end of that proverbial tunnel. As personally, my youngest is a senior, so it'll be kind of bittersweet for me too to have both of my kids be graduates of Clinton High, and my wife is a graduate of Clinton High. That's where I met my wife, was right? So it's a fun time of year, a lot of celebrations going on.
And finally, your daughter, what has her thoughts been about this time in high school?
Yeah, Leonie had come in one day and said, "Dad, I'm so glad that you didn't become superintendent before this year," because I get so many comments about, you need to tell your dad this, or you need to tell your dad that. But no, I think I've always been so appreciative for both of my kids because, again, this community, this school district has given so much to them, just like it did for me.
Wes, thank you.
Thank you.
Listening to AM 1340 KROS, Clinton, Iowa.
FM 105.9.
And KROSradio.com.
This is Radio Iowa.